So in the video yesterday, I think, where I was looking through Obsidian stuff, I stumbled across this video about like language learning with Obsidian. So I just want to watch that video because I started watching it, but I didn't continue it because I wanted to, well, because it surprised me with how insightful it might be. This one. So this is Learning Swedish in 30 Days with Obsidian and Other Apps by Nicole van der Hoven. Probably pronounce that word. Um, yeah, I'm very curious because yeah, let's just watch. Why is this tab even open? Okay.
I love learning languages. I live for that moment when I see someone's eyes light up because I've said a phrase in their native language. And apparently, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I like that too. Especially when I first came to uni, I went around to a bunch of different like clubs, like societies and stuff. And I don't speak, I mean, like I speak English, obviously, and then I speak like a decent amount of Spanish, but like not fluent Spanish, more to the point that if I moved to a Spanish speaking country and spoke it regularly, I could become fluent. But without that practice, I'm not gonna get there type thing. And like I'm in Japanese, but like nothing like I wouldn't say I'm fluent in a second language at this stage. But just you can still just learn phrases and just parrot them, and it's a good icebreaker, especially if someone's of a different culture, because it shows that this person uh knows a bit about my language, and a bit that resonates with my a bit of my identity, which is always fun. Like with Chinese, you know, I mean, obviously, like ni hao. Everyone knows ni hao, but like if I pull up and say 我不会说中文, you know, terrible pronunciation, obviously, but like it gets the idea across, you know, or 我爱中国 or 我操, always puts a smile on the other person's face. Um, But that is just for phrases, right? Just such set phrases. You can't really have a conversation with that. It's a good icebreaker, but from then on, you're kind of screwed. You can't really take it further. So I want to know, how can I speak a language fluently, so I can just go out there and just speak it. I mean, I know the answer, which is to practice with people who speak the language, but that's also easy to do. You know, like not like people don't necessarily want to like especially if you're a beginner. So what I'm hoping is that this video, when it says learning Swedish in 30 days, I assume that it doesn't mean like to fluency. I assume it means it puts her in a position where she could speak with Swedish speakers and like start conversing, right? Because like if you're a complete beginner, like I've met loads of Chinese people here in Liverpool who speak Chinese, um, but like they can't really help me learn Chinese if my level of Chinese is so base level that is basically useless. Or I had a visit to Japan this summer. Well, like last summer this year. Not this year. Whoa! I went to Japan like 6 months ago. Let's just say that, and it was like I feel like it improved my pattern recognition of Japanese and stuff like that, and like it was good to be able to like practice reading and stuff. But what it didn't do was help me converse because I couldn't really start a conversation with a Japanese person. The only conversation I had with a Japanese person was that person speaking English, right? Um, which sucks. For me, if I want to become fluent in Japanese, like I need to have a base level where I can do that. Which is why which is why I say, for me, although I'm not fluent in Spanish, is the one language that if I were that I could go up to a Spanish person and try speaking. Obviously, I'll struggle at first, but like I'd be competent enough that I wouldn't just turn them off completely from talking to me. Because if you're a native speaker of a different language, you don't want to like speak baby version of that language all the time. Like you would like to just kind of speak normally. Um, so that's interesting. And so I hope this video in its 30 days will take me will be able to take someone to that level. Well, take me to that level where they can have that like entry level, let's say. Sorry, I got a ping. Right.
Many of you love learning languages too. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about different ways that I learn a language using a variety of tools, including Obsidian, and
Obsidian.
specifically how I recently learned Swedish from scratch.
Yeah, so I've for a bit of preface, I've used Anki, you know, the flashcard app for my flashcards. I kind of showed them off in the last video, but maybe I'll show them off later again in this video. But yeah, Anki flashcards are effective if you keep doing them. And I just find it hard to stay motivated doing them because I don't really reap the rewards. I think flashcards are really good to do if you are actively learning the language on the like just in general. And like Anki's a good way to keep vocabulary fresh in your mind. But if you're just using Anki to memorize vocabulary and you're not actually like going out there and getting the language, then it's not so useful. So, for example, I've been trying to learn Chinese and Japanese and Spanish, right, by doing flashcards. But it's pointless if I'm not at least reading Spanish, right, or reading Japanese or reading Chinese. Like I need to be going out there and like actually consuming media. But the hard thing is, it's hard to consume media if you don't have that base level. Um, and with grammar as well. Like I like you like whatever the case, you need to have some kind of base level already. Like I can read stuff in Spanish. It's just difficult for me, and I would do it more often. But I guess I'm lazy. Um, but like that's something I could do, and maybe I'll focus on that. I mean, I literally have like books in Spanish, right? Like this is I got a few JoJo manga volumes in Spanish, and that's not a good example. That's not a good example. That's like, oh my god, is there any dialogue in this volume? Yeah, like okay, my camera's blurry anyway, but whatever. My point is, I could do that, and they'll probably take me higher in Spanish. But I just need like a motivation. For Japanese, I do have a very strong motivation, which is that actually fun thing there. So recently, I mean, you know, those who follow JoJo, you know that the Steel Ball Run anime dropped recently, and I noticed that it's a lot more fun to watch the anime when you don't have to look at subtitles because not only does it, you know, help you, not whoa, not only does it mean you can keep your attention on the actual animation, right? That's good. That's the obvious thing. But the less obvious thing is that you read faster than people talk, right? So if you are reading dialogue English subtitles for a Japanese dub, you will finish reading faster than when the Japanese voice actor finishes speaking. So what happens is they say something, you read it, and then you kind of just have like a few seconds of just mouth moving, and that's not really engaging. Like, because you're like, okay, I've read it, but they're still talking. I feel like it really messes up the flow in ways that people underestimate. Whereas if you understand the language that's being spoken, then it's fine. Like, I was looking back at the Steel Ball Run episode, right, episode one, without subtitles, just to like see the animation for a bit, and I like hear the music and stuff, and I was just like, this feels so much more engaging and like dynamic because I'm following the voice actors' mouths and what they're saying. Um, particularly because I do already understand some Japanese. Even if I can't necessarily speak it, I've listened to enough of it at this point where I can like kind of get the rhythm and like kind of see the grammar and like know a decent amount of vocabulary to the point where I can kind of understand some stuff. So then it's just so much more engaging that way. Whereas if I have English subtitles, not so much. Um, and you know, of course, I could do the English dub, but the English dub, you know, it sucked to be frank. At least compared to the Japanese dub, it's just not even comparable. Um, so I do actually have a strong motivation there to learn Japanese, and that's probably the first time I've really had that motivation. Like another motivation, like okay, so a motivation for me to do Spanish is to be able to read JoJolion, because right now the English manga for JoJo is on part 7, right? And it has errors as well, which is really annoying. Whereas oh, okay. Whereas the Spanish volumes are on either part 8 or part 9. I'm not sure, but yeah. So it means that if I can get ahead in the manga where English isn't by either reading the Japanese or reading the Spanish, right? So that could be a good motivation for me to read some Spanish. Issue is though, I'm not in Spain, so I can't really get more volumes. Like right now, I have volumes 1 and 2, but I've already read them in English. So I'd be rereading in Spanish at that point. But I still think I'll probably do it anyway. Um, but it's just getting around to it really. So there's that. Because and the reason I do that is because I really hate reading digitally. It's like top 10 worst experiences ever. Because when you reach, I don't know, like I don't know what it is. I think it's just like you. I want the physical, the physical feel, and like not having like the screen glare when I'm reading like the book. Like I'm like looking at the art. I just want to be able to have it on paper. So yeah, that. Anyway, but point is, I need motivation to learn. So I also wonder how this method could help with that. And see what strategies that she employed. Because I've only ever used Anki and like Duolingo, but like I've wondered how I could use Obsidian, but never really thought it could be useful. Anyway, let's see.
In 30 days. For many people, the goal of language learning is obvious. It's to become fluent in that language. But I think that's a little like starting a new job in a new field and immediately planning to be the CEO.
Yeah,
Why don't you
exactly.
try it a little bit first and see if you even like the job? I think that that's really daunting, and for that reason, I like to set a smaller, more specific, and concrete goal.
Yeah. So again, with like motivation, if I had a goal for Japanese, it would be to be able to watch JoJo without needing subtitles. That would be my goal, right? Uh, or for Spanish, it could be watching there's a certain JoJo YouTuber who makes videos that are interestingly themed, but I don't understand what he's saying. I mean, like I can kind of understand, but like it's difficult for me. So another goal I have for Spanish is to be able to understand his videos. I think it's called like JJo or something. And he speaks. I think he's Argentinian or he might be Spanish. Although the issue for there is that I want to learn Spain Spanish specifically. Although I mean, obviously, if you learn one, then you can more easily learn the other. So it doesn't really matter.
For my Swedish challenge, I just wanted to be able to introduce myself in Swedish and talk a bit about who I am, why I'm learning Swedish, and what I was doing in Stockholm. Because I had a work trip scheduled for 1 week, I was going to be in Stockholm.
Yeah, so that's obviously a much easier goal to obtain than I want to understand anime without dub, or I want to understand I want to read well I want to watch YouTuber's videos, right? Um, when I visit countries as well, like I started this project called what's it called? I think it's called language utility, which is just memorizing a bunch of phrases in a bunch of different languages, so that if I ever visit those countries, I can at least do what she does, which is like introduce myself, say like basic things like "Can I have order this?" or you know, "Police," type stuff. But
Sweden with my work colleagues whom I've been working with some for over a year and that had never met in person. COVID, you know. But
anyway,
I wanted to be able to just say a
this
few
was
phrases
posted
about myself in their
2022.
native language. So it was a very specific, concrete goal
Yeah,
that I ended up achieving. When I learn a language, I also like to think about what are some activities I can do in that language that would make it actually fun. I'm pretty
yeah.
lucky because for most languages,
Oh,
what's fun for me is actually speaking it with people. And
yeah.
so I like to jump right into that.
Me too.
Speaking from day one sounds like a very daunting task, but for
Yes,
me, it gives me the most motivation because that is usually the thing that I want from
it's
learning a
fun but
language.
terrifying.
And so going right to it keeps me going. For some languages like Swedish, where I'm not entirely sure about the pronunciation or the rhythm of the language, I like to start with an audio course that gives me a few phrases right from the beginning that I can repeat to myself, and then I can kind of start to train my ears and my speech based on that. And my favorite
Ja, eller
audio
ska,
course for
svenska.
this is Pimsleur, just because they have a wide variety of languages. And they do get repetitive, so I don't tend to finish the entire lessons. Depending on the language, you can have
Pimsleur, please be free. That's a guy, American linguist. I'm guessing that's what it's named after. It's just AI. Not free.
Up to 20 in the first one, and then you can have different levels as well. I usually just like to do maybe 10 just until I get a feel for it and can move on to something a little bit more natural.
This is Unit 1 of Kinsler's Swedish. Listen to this conversation.
Ursäkta, förstår du engelska?
Nej, jag förstår inte engelska.
And then once I'm done with that, I move on to probably my favorite method of learning languages.
Okay, so step one is getting exposure to how the language sounds. Makes sense. I mean, I already have that for Spanish and Japanese and even Chinese to an extent, although obviously I could do a lot better with that. And well, not obviously, obviously to me. Um, hmm. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And there are, there are other ways to get audio samples than Pimsleur and whatever. Like you can literally just find stuff on YouTube
And that's using a
for free.
service called italki. italki is a platform I've been using for literally years. I have learned so many different languages on it. italki lets you connect with other people who are speaking the language that you want to learn. So you
Hmm.
can just join it for free and then do language exchanges with people that want to speak your language and who speak the language that you want to learn.
Yeah,
However, I often don't have time for that because obviously the learning time is cut in half because I'm having to
I'd be
teach a
terrified as well.
language as well. So I just prefer to
Yeah, that's
pay
true.
and get either a community tutor or a formal teacher.
Yeah, you can do that, and there are many platforms like this. Although my plan, if I ever muster up the confidence to speak to people online, strangers online, is to is Discord. I'm in like a bunch, like I'm in like at least 10 different language Discord servers, um, and they all have voice chat. So if you want to, you can just you can join the voice chat and do chat there. And I've chatted in the Spanish English Discord server, not on voice chat but physically, and yeah, it's good. It's good practice. Um, yeah, but voice chat is it's daunting, but it's very it can be very good.
And I tend to go for the informal
Or if
community
you have
tutor.
friends,
And what that
that also
is
can work.
someone who's just a native speaker.
Although again, it's hard to speak to someone if you aren't like if you don't already have a decent level to be able to say stuff. Um, of course, again, like if you pay someone to do it, then they'll be fine with it. If you go on Discord, like a learning Discord, then that's also fine. Um,
Who may not
just not
know
speaking to
all
like
of the
random
intricacies
random
of
people.
grammar, but is
You can't do
perfectly
that
happy
as
to spend
easily.
some time talking to you. And then the formal
Yeah.
teacher I reserve for languages where I know I'm going to want to learn it more in detail. For Swedish, I just did community tutors. I ended up doing 12 lessons over 3 weeks, and that was with two teachers in particular, Felicity and Mel. I recommend them both highly, and
The
I'll leave a
Viking
link to their italki profiles as well because they were
aus
great
Schweden.
teachers. In Obsidian, I have a project
Oh,
page called Learn Swedish, and that's where I had some of my resources and I had like this
Duolingo.
checklist of things that I wanted to get done. But I also have this data view query, which is going through files that have the name Mel or Felicia in them. And that's because those are the names of my teachers. So let's have a look at one of these. This is one of my early lessons with Mel. You'll see that for language learning, I use a similar template to the one that I use for meetings. I always ask the teachers to type out what they're saying so that I can see it written as well. And that will be fed into my system for flashcards, which I will get to in a bit.
Yeah,
After these lessons, I start to have questions about the grammar,
of
and
course.
sometimes I'll ask the teachers. Often, because I use community tutors, they may not be able to.
Grammar is a very interesting point. There's studies. Well, I don't know if there's studies plural, but there's a very famous study that I can't remember the name of. Great. It's in my Obsidian somewhere, but my Obsidian is a mess right now. Um, but basically, the results of the study would suggest, or the case study would suggest, that learning grammar formally is actually worse for you learning the language because it's if you learn the grammar formally, what it does is that every time you want to speak the language, you kind of filter it through this process. There's this very explicit process which stops you from becoming like a natural, or like second nature is what I mean. Like it stops you from being second nature with the grammar, and like you're stuck on thinking about it all the time. Apparently, um, which is very interesting. And you may also and it may also trap you in that thinking in English thing, where you're like, okay, how do I conjugate this? Like for Spanish, it's a bit more natural for me. But for like not Swedish, for Japanese, I definitely am thinking like, okay, where's my ga? Okay, like I've said my wa, my subject or my topic. Um, I think topic is why. I mean, I think was is the topic marker and like ga's a subject marker. But like I have to consciously like think about the grammar. Whereas I would like to just be able to just flow, just let it go, let it go. Um, so yeah. Anyway,
answer from a grammatical perspective, and sometimes I'll just then research it myself. So, for example, in this page, I have some notes on Swedish gender because they have two genders, but they're not like the typical feminine and masculine.
yeah. Like I mean, it looks like Swedish is a bit nicer than like German and stuff. But like, let's say you learned Russian, which has like however many different articles, or German, which also has a bunch of different articles. Like you could try learning those with formal grammar, but or like even with like Spanish, like a language which is fairly consistent but has a lot of grammatical irregularities, right? Or English, it's probably one of the best examples, which is just full of grammatical and its spelling as well, irregularities and pronunciation irregularities, right? Pronunciation, which one is it? Um, so like it's different from learning a programming language, because in a programming language there's a strict grammar that must be followed, and if you break it, then it's kind of just by accident, and then I guess you can learn it, but really would prefer that you don't use that method, and then instead and instead that language feature, which is irregular, gets patched out, etc., etc. Whereas for a spoken language, a human language, those irregularities are just going to come naturally, and those are accepted. So you can't just learn the grammar and roll with it, because then you have to learn like a bunch of exceptions to the rule, right? Which is just a pain in the ass most of the time. Um, like learning irregulars for Spanish in school was like my least favorite thing. My least favorite thing, because I'm a very systematic, a guy who likes like a student who likes consistency and like patterns, and then having like just like things that just aren't patterns at all, that I just have to like, rote memorize basically. That really I did not like. So just because of that, if you don't learn the formal grammar and instead learn it like a native speaker would, which is just learn the language from exposure, and like maybe get some formal grammar, but like not worry about it too much, like just like a bit here and there to like, yeah, like here's a pattern. It doesn't apply to everything, but it may help your brain to just make things easier. Although even then, like your brain should automatically find these patterns, and then for the regulars, just automatically memorize it if it needs to use it, type thing. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, to give an example, let's say you're learning French, and you're given a list of irregular verbs you need to memorize the conjugations for. I think this is not the way to go about teaching a language. I think the way to learn irregulars is to use them as you need them, right? So like if let's say I'm trying to speak to someone in Spanish, like what's an irregular verb? Like ir, right? Is a classic irregular, because it's like, okay, well, actually, ser. Even, even more classic, right? Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son, right? Not very regular as far as what's it said, er verbs go. Um, but you learn them just because they're so common. But like in English, like I am, you are, he is. Okay, we are, you all are, and we and they are, right? So like it seems weird, but then because it's so common, you just get used to it anyway, and your brain just says, okay, I guess that's how it is. And that's it. Whereas if I had to memorize that as a table, it would just be so much effort, and like it'd just be a pain. It'd be a pain. I do not want to do that. You know, I don't want to learn like 20 different articles. Like, just give me the articles first. So my point is, I feel like it's better to with the start with exposure, and find the patterns naturally, as opposed to learning the patterns first. And that's just more effective. It's very interesting, but it's just more effective.
from Romance languages like Spanish. In fact, Swedish is much more like Dutch, where the two genders are common and neuter. So I have some
Yeah, I was gonna say, if her name is something Van whatever, is she already does she already speak Dutch? Because I assume that would make Swedish quite easily, like a lot easier to learn, just because they're both
et
Germanic.
and n words here. I'm
Mind you, there's West Germanic and East Germanic, something like that. Like there's two different branches of Germanic, where German and Dutch are in the same branch, and Swedish and Norwegian and etc. are in a different branch. So like they're still quite significantly different, but like still like the similarities are definitely there.
using callouts to summarize grammatical points. And in
Right.
this case, this was actually a summary from one of my lessons with Mel, where she talked about the gender.
I have thoughts about making grammatical notes. I mean, like honestly, I feel like it works better for a Zettelkasten system because like as a Zettelkasten is a thought, right? Um, which means like there can be exceptions. It's not like if that makes sense. Like if I say well, let's have a look at some examples I have. Um, like let's say educators should focus more on creating asynchronous resources, right? There will be exceptions to which educators should and shouldn't, like what kinds of asynchronous resources, some are better than others. There are some they shouldn't focus on. But like the thing is, it's just like such a general statement, and like a general thought that's like kind of like more abstract, like a model kind of, where like it doesn't have to fit every single scenario. It's just like a thought, an idea, right, that can be applied to, yeah, like maybe useful in some contexts. So likewise, if I present a grammatical rule in this way, then it's better in the system because it's like yeah, like generally, AR verbs in Spanish, they go o, as, a, amos, ais, an, right? But like not always. There will be exceptions, which is better than like if I have a note called Spanish grammar, AR verbs do this. The exceptions are jugar, which also follows its own consistent grammar rule, where you have, it becomes UE instead of just you. And unless it's, the we and the you all, because that's jugamos and jugáis instead of juegamos. But you have juego, juegas, juega. Like all of these are, it's very rigid for like a note system and like more textbook style. Whereas a Zettelkasten is more like, yeah, this is a pattern. It applies most of the time, but sometimes it doesn't. And I can list some examples, but like I'm not hard pressed to include all examples and explain all of them because it's one thought per note. So if I want to expand on it, I can by creating more notes. And if I don't want to, then maybe it's because it's not useful to me. Maybe I don't use, jugar like at all. I mean, obviously I do, but let's say I didn't, then I wouldn't bother including that note because it's like kind of obscure and not really worth talking about for my use case. So that's interesting. Um, yeah, yeah,
In Swedish. In this case, I definitely have an advantage in learning Swedish because I already know, or at least have studied, three different Germanic languages that are similar. That's English,
yeah. I was gonna say,
German, and Dutch.
well, she does German too. Yeah, so English, German, Dutch,
And so I
the
found it
trifecta.
useful here to compare Swedish with two of my stronger ones.
Okay. I don't know any Dutch, by the way, or Swedish really. I mean, I know ja because that's like ja, ja älskar svenska. I love Swedish, I think. Ja, du han? Or is the H different, the different sound? Ni, V, and de, or is it D? And then Dutch is ik, like ich, Jij. Okay. Hij or Zij. Which was that Vij? I don't know. Julie Zij. That's crazy. I do have a friend who's doing Dutch though. And I actually want to learn German, so that'd be kind of fun
I
if we
also
both
like
speak
that I
those
can
different
hide
languages.
some of these callouts. So if we go into the code here,
Yeah.
you'll see that I'm using
I'm not too fussed about like all these callouts and stuff, formatting. Yeah. The comparisons are cool though. Um, but like I just feel like they are so again, they can be good for recognizing patterns across different languages. Like obviously if English is Germanic, um well, technically, then it's going to have some similar grammar features to German or to Dutch or to Swedish. And then recognizing those patterns can help you learn those languages more easily. But if I'm learning like Japanese, I can also find patterns, but then it's just that if I want to apply this pattern, am I going to think in English first, right? Do I want to like whenever I want to conjugate a verb in Spanish, do I want to go I, you, he, she, okay, we, you, all, they, and then like choose the right one, or do I just want to know it? And that's the question, right? Um, like if I want to do 6 times 10, you know, I don't go 6, 12, 18. No, like I just use the pattern. Okay, add a 0, 60. Um, or then like even like I skip that pattern and I just say 6 times 10, 60. Like I just know it. Like I don't add the 0 anymore because I just know it. Like how do you reach that stage with a language where if I want to say we play, I'm not going juego, juegas, juega, jugamos. I mean, even now, like I've done it so many times that I do just know it's jugamos, right? Or like we are, estamos, or like I don't know. I'm trying to think of verbs I actually know. Pronounce, they pronounce, pronuncian. Like I know the verb endings, just like a direct mapping. I do like or like if I say or like even if I try to speak in Spanish, I already feel like I can speak to an extent without needing to translate from English. But then there are some things that I do need to translate. I want to make a video at some point where I try speaking just Spanish and see how that goes to kind of demonstrate my point. Um, but yeah, it's I want to identify what things there are that I can't speak directly and need to translate, and then what things I can just say in Spanish directly. Yeah,
using this minus sign, and that means that
different
this is going to
different
be
video idea.
automatically collapsed. So I don't bombard myself with a lot of information. But if I am wondering about the difference between the, them, dom, them is also pronounced dom, then I can expand this and I'll get a little bit more of an explanation. At this point, I also start thinking about the things that I already do every day, like watching YouTube videos and starting to think about how I can inject some
Yeah, so like again, I have the Spanish YouTuber Kojo, but his videos are like more video essay anyway, and I don't really watch video essays that often. Um, really, I need someone like the YouTube videos I watch regularly now are like Veritasium for like science videos, Kurzgesagt. I'm aware Kurzgesagt, whatever however you pronounce that, have videos in other languages, but it's hard to like watch it when it's there translated and the original's in English. Or like I watch videos from like Ken, Ken Forrest, Castrial, although he's like quite one of a kind. Fry him up, Plan with Zombies Heroes streamer. Like I'm sure there's stuff out there in other languages, but I'm not gonna find them myself. Like I've got looking, but it's been really difficult to find YouTubers I resonate with. And that's obvious because I don't understand them, right? Like really, I need a recommendation. Like Joe, the YouTuber, was recommended to me when I asked in the JoJo's Modding Community server or Discord, what Spanish YouTubers do you guys like? And then this one came up. So that's what I really need as well
Swedish flavor into that. So one of the first things that I did
to
was
do
to
like
ask
YouTube.
my Swedish colleagues what Swedish YouTube channels they
Exactly.
follow.
Or even as like outside of YouTube, like I don't really have stuff from other languages except for Japanese. But like because anime exists, like it's piss easy to find media in Japanese for practicing Japanese. But if I wanted to do like Spanish, like there are some movies in Spanish, but I don't watch movies anyway, like in English. So it's difficult.
So I ended up finding a few that I like to sometimes watch. Honestly, at this stage, I didn't really understand what was happening
Yeah,
or what they were saying exactly, but
yeah.
it still honed my intuition for the cadence of the
Yes, the
language,
cadence
which
is
is
very
not
important.
something that is easily taught. I mean, I thought it was fun. YouTube is a platform I hang out on already. And so having that in my daily routine was just really helpful, especially for days when I wasn't actively studying Swedish.
And that's why I mentioned Discord, because, as much as I would not like to admit it, I do use Discord chronically. I'm chronically online on Discord, on like random servers. I mean, I'm literally in like over I think 130 plus servers at this point, um, which like I need Nitro for to even maintain. Um, so I've joined like the Spanish English server, Japanese server, Chinese server. I've only really chatted in the Spanish server so far, but I've also joined like some other Spanish servers, like the JJo Discord server. I could definitely chat there more, but like point is that is something I could do just because I really like talking and like yapping in text, right, on Discord. So if I do that, then that's good. Or for Instagram, actually, it'd be great if Instagram would give me reels in like other languages that I'm learning and that I can understand. Like if I could turn short form content into a language learning machine, that would be sick. That would be sick.
By the way, in case you haven't noticed, I have captions on all of my videos. I actually pay for that separately because Google's auto translate
I
captions
didn't
are
realize
pretty
she
awful,
pays for
and
a
so I
transcriber,
pay for a service to caption
just
my
English.
videos. And that makes it so
Oh,
that one,
service.
the English subtitles are way better quality than the auto translate subtitles would be. And also, because they're better, you can turn on CC down there and then click the cogwheel and auto translate to pretty much any language that you want.
Can I? Settings, captions, translate to Spanish. I can't search. Are you serious? Scroll.
I wish all videos did this because it would really help with language learning. I love
Interesting. Cool. I low-key didn't realize I could translate like that. Um,
when other YouTube creators do this because then, even if I understand the language that they're speaking in, say Spanish or Dutch or English, then I can still change the subtitles to, for example, Swedish. And that way, I'm still hearing the language in a language that I understand.
I do wonder about that actually. Is it useful to listen to a language in English and then have it translate to a language you're learning? Like I feel like, your brain being cognitive miser theory and all that, like your brain would just filter out it as noise. Or you get sort of like distracted by the text and like trying to like read it that you would just lose your actual comprehension, which is not really useful.
But I'm also reading Swedish subtitles. So it's a really cool way of just being able to link, the meaning of something with some Swedish words without even really thinking about it. And
I guess it's that like if even if your brain is filtering it out, you may still just subconsciously absorb some stuff. All right, then let's try it. Um,
really steering into things that I find fun, I also bought a copy of an awesome Swedish RPG, Mörkborg, but in Swedish. I already had the English version, so I could compare the English version and the Swedish version and try to spot some differences. Now, it did mean that I acquired some non traditional vocabulary, especially because Mörkborg says that it is a doom metal album of a game, and that's kind of cool, right? Because that's something that's very specific to what I like to do for fun.
yeah, no, my brain's switching between reading and translating the text and listening to her voice and actually understanding what she's saying. Like I'm getting the text either way, but I'm not really absorbing the information.
I'm talking specifically about learning human languages in this video, but prioritizing for fun is something that I do with computer languages too. And I've been using an app called Brilliant
Oh,
to
yeah,
help
she's a
me learn
programmer,
a little every day.
which
Brilliant
also
is a
intrigues me.
sponsor of this video, but I'm
Damn it.
actually hooked. I recently finished
Okay.
disadvantages is that you don't annual premium subscription. Thanks, Brilliant. Holding conversations this early on does have its disadvantages, and one of those disadvantages is that you don't really have the vocabulary at this stage. And
Difficulties,
I'm
yeah.
no exception. Lots of my initial conversations are what betyder det, which means what does that mean, and hur säger man something, which means how.
Nah, like one of the first things I learned in a language, besides I don't speak the language, which was just for jokes, is how do I say X? Um, I should really remember it in Japanese, but I literally cannot, even though it's like really important. Um, but like in Spanish, like I very much got into the habit of just saying "qué significa?" Like, what does that mean? Like, if someone says, well, okay, I mean, I can't think of, can I think of an example? Uh, um, eres muy guapo, señor. And I said, and like, let's say I don't understand what guapo means. I could say, ¿qué significa guapo? And they'll say, no sé, no hablo inglés. And I'll say, yep, should have seen that coming. Obviously, it depends on them also being able to understand the language, but like in Japan, like I couldn't say, um, what's an example? Man, I'm really hard pressed for examples. Like I know Japanese words, but for some reason I could only think of like katakana loan words, like game, like bolsa. That's Spanish. What's bag? I know this right. Caban. Is it caban? Caban. He says like a Spaniard. Okay, denwa, right? Denwa, which is a word that I don't know people still use for phone, but let's say I don't know what denwa means, so I could say denwa wa nan desu ka, and let's say denwa, uh, uh, koko. No, that's here. What's this? What's this in Japanese? Kono? Nah, koko. Kono, no, like kono's like this thing. Kono, I'm cooked, man. Whatever the case, like they could pick it up. What am I even saying? Point is, this is a good thing to do. Which is good vocabulary, but grammar, man, grammar really snags me. Like whenever I speak Spanish, like for example, when I was speaking Spanish to my Spanish teacher, I could, say things, say, ¿qué significa este? Or like, ¿cómo se dice? How do you say, right? ¿Cómo se dice? And then like I say it in English, and then she'd tell me like, okay, cool. But for grammar, I can very easily talk myself into a wall by just not being able to finish a sentence, or maybe I started the sentence incorrectly and like I need to backtrack, which like is fine. Well, no, like it's not fine. Like it's fine for like learning, but if you're like actually trying to have a conversation, it's so distracting that you actually just end up just losing your train of thought and you're screwed. Um, like for example, in Spanish, you can't end and well most Hispanic, most Latin languages, you can't end a sentence with a proposition. Like you can't say um like you can't say it is you I'm going to, right? Like in Spanish you can't say es tú que voy a. Like you can't say that. But I can say voy a tú. Or like te voy. Te voy? Does that make sense? No, voy a tú probably. Or like voy a ti. I'm going to you. Whereas I can't say like yeah. So I mean that's like a very weird example in English anyway. But like a more natural example is like I don't know. Okay. Um, like when you like asking a question like, "Oh, you went clubbing? Who did you go with?" Right? In English, who did you go with? Whereas in Spanish, you can't say, "Quién? Who did you go with? Who did you go?" Ah, it's past tense. I'm really screw myself here. ¿Quién y ire? Iraste? That's not right at all. Let's just assume it's iraste. I know it's not, but que iraste con, right? You can't say that. You have to conjugate it as con quién iraste, right? With whom did you go? Which sounds weird in English anyway, but like it is valid English, it's just kind of archaic. But like those kind of sentence structure shifts mean I can't just easily say the Spanish. I need to get used to that grammar first. And if I'm not used to the grammar, then I'll either well, yeah, then I'll just say it like in English, and then realize that's really weird. Kind of pause, and then like the other and then like the other person looks at me like, what? Like imagine if you're speaking to someone in English, right? And they're like, oh, with whom did you go? And you're like it would cause you to just kind of just like lag for a second, and be like, huh? Oh, I went with, right? And you might even correct them, which is good, by the way. That's probably like the best case scenario. But like, it makes it harder. Is what I'm saying, to speak. There's something. There was another example that came to mind with grammar. Oh yeah, Japanese. Like Spanish is not too dissimilar from English grammar, but Japanese grammar is obviously completely different, right? Chinese is closer to English than Japanese is to Chinese, in terms of grammar. So like if I want to say I like cats, my brain as a beginner might be trying to remember the verb for like. I don't even know what the verb is, and then like conjugate it in a way that's not even remotely similar to English anyway, and then like say okay, watashi like neko, and it's like what have you just said? Like I need to stop and like construct the whole sentence in my mind and go, okay, so in Japanese you don't actually say like I like cats. You say like you say that cats are likable, implying to me, and like I could say with like boku wa, but like really it's implicit, so I don't add the boku wa. So then at the end I'm like, okay, neko ga suki. Like great, you've constructed a sentence, but like look at how much thought went into that, right? Whereas if you just learn the pattern, um, not learn the pattern, but if you just absorb the pattern, like you see it used somewhere else, so that you just repeat it, that's a lot easier than having to do all that. And it's natural. Like the reason that I can just say X ga suki, I like X, um, so easily is because I never went through like I've tried to like study the grammar of why it makes sense, and like that's interesting, but like in terms of actually using it, I've never tried to like conjugate it like that. I've just learned the pattern that is neko ga suki, or oh no, denwa ga suki, or like jojo ga suki, right? Jojo ga suki, I like jojo. Like I just know that pattern, so I can just use it, and that's and that's more better. That is better than just learning the not just that's better than learning like trying to learn the grammar to a T, because there's some things that you just will not understand until you have more examples.
How do you say something,
Holy
på
yeah.
svenska, in Swedish? And that's
50
totally
minutes
okay,
already?
but here's how
My body is a machine that turns a 10 minutes of a video into 50 minutes of content.
I try to get those things to stick in my mind. The first is Duolingo, an app that I have a love-hate relationship with. I don't think that it alone is enough for language learning,
I hate
but it
Duolingo.
is very gamified, has all the nice bells and whistles and sounds, and it is really helpful when you're starting to learn a language to give you the motivation to do something, anything in that language. I do find myself quickly outstripping Duolingo.
Bro, I tried learning Arabic in Duolingo because I was like, you know what? Like Duolingo's at least good for like beginners starting out. No, bro. I mean, it is very between languages, but like, what do you mean? Like, I need to learn like these names and like yeah, frustrating.
Though, in terms of the actual usable vocabulary. So
And this is after like I learned Arabic in school, by the way, for like half a year. Like that was not helping me in Duolingo whatsoever.
things like woman, man, or child, those things might be very useful in the
Are they though? Like die Child, what's child in German? I don't know, but like die Mann ist lecker. The man is tasty. Like, would I ever say the man or the woman? And like, I know Duolingo has addressed this to try to make it like vocabulary more what's the word? More useful, more what's the word? Not relative. Ah, my god, my mind's blanking. But like relevant. There you go. To make the vocabulary more relevant to like what you would actually say in real life. Like I like saying "Die Speisekarte bitte," you know, for like the menu, please, or like that's cool. But like I only memorize it because it just sounds cool. Die Speisekarte, you know. Whereas if I actually want to speak German, like I guess like yeah, I guess I can go to a German restaurant and say "Die Speisekarte bitte," but really I'm not looking for the waiter conversations. I want to converse with actual people, and I'm probably never going to say "Die Speisekarte bitte," unless I'm sitting across the table from them, and I just pull it out. It's like a joke. Like I'm not going to say that like in natural conversation, at least not early on, right? Because that already implies I'm going to restaurants with people in German. Like Duolingo might be useful if you're visiting a country, but if I want to talk to friends in their language, maybe not so much.
beginning, but
Well, not
as you
maybe,
go on,
definitely
you
not so
start
much.
learning like fruits and stuff.
I got pretty far in Japanese for the Duolingo path, and I was learning stuff like how to name things in my room, and that's where I quit. Cause like I was just stuck on that because I had no motivation to say what my sink was in Japanese or like what my kitchen was. Like I don't care. I don't even say kitchen in like English often unless I'm talking to my parents, right? And my parents speak English, not Japanese, so like it doesn't matter. Um, even after visiting Japan, I don't know what kitchen is because it's just a word I never used. So
And I don't particularly find that useful for my use cases anyway. I mean, maybe you want to
no,
learn a language so that you can go to the grocery store and ask for
exactly.
stuff. And in that case, maybe Duolingo would be more useful. One cool thing about Duolingo is that they also now have languages that you learn through other languages. So, for example, for Portuguese, I've actually found it more useful to learn Portuguese through Spanish than
Mm,
through English
that's
because
that's a cool
Portuguese and
feature.
Spanish are so similar
Yeah.
that they're two
If I learned Portuguese today, I would learn it through Spanish,
interconnected in
and
my
that would
mind.
also improve my
Having
Spanish.
those lessons in Spanish really helps reinforce the
Yes,
differences. I've also had a lot of
that
success
too.
with
That too.
Memrise, which is an app that I signed up for a lifetime.
Yeah. I should be taking notes on this by the way in Obsidian. But I agree. Taking notes in theory, I say I agree. I don't know the science, but in theory, if you use one language if you Spanish and Portuguese are similar, right? If you learn Portuguese in Spanish, because they are similar and you're learning it one from the other, it helps you differentiate them more. Whereas if I learn Spanish from English and then learn Portuguese from English, I feel like it's easier to get them mixed up. Um, so I'm actually going to make a note on this. Control N, please do something. Um, learning a language from a similar language helps helps you learn to differentiate them better. Language learning, I guess. Language acquisition, whatever. Like linguistics. I mean, that's the study of languages, but yeah, language education, language learning, whatever. And then for reference, I would link this video. But yeah, like when you if you learn one language from a similar language, e.g., Spanish, e.g., learning Portuguese, Portuguese from Espanol. Um, in theory, the brain would have to work harder to differentiate. Well, the brain would have more of a would have more motivation, or would have more need to differentiate between the two languages. Whereas if you are learning both languages from, say, English, it would probably be easier to blur the two. Let's go! New Zerocaster note today.
Time subscription for. And in particular, I like that they have all of these word
Oh, I should probably
subscription
give more specific notes.
for. And Memrise, which is to reinforce the difference. Mind having those lessons in Spanish.
1220. So if I ever make this a literature note, then I can have that there.
Really helps reinforce the differences. I've also had a lot of success with Memrise, which is an app that I signed up for a
That weird sound
lifetime
effect.
subscription for. And in
I've heard
particular,
about
I like
Memrise.
that they have all of these word frequency lists. So they have one for Swedish as well. And that's very useful and working my way down the
Yeah, when I learned Japanese with Anki, I did the most common words, I think, which is either related to NPLT. Is that what it's called? I can't remember what it's called now. But like the official Japanese exam for foreign speakers learning Japanese. I think it's NPLT or like NLPT, something along those lines. But the Anki decks I used for those were the most common words in Japanese. And I think that's a good starting point. I was able to pass, like, I mean, the servers. I think it's the Yomi. No, what server is it? It might be the Yomitan Discord server, which is an extension. No, it's not. I can't remember what the server is called. I mean, I'm still in it. I just haven't been there in a while. But I was able to pass like that first exam, which is like, can you identify these random Japanese words? Um, Such that I could probably pass the NPLT N5 exam, which I think is the lowest exam for Japanese, which is cool, right? But then I just stopped doing it because my motivation ended up dying because I wasn't seeing these words used enough, or at least a lot of them. Um, yeah. So I think those kind of decks are good for starting out to get like some base vocabulary. But even then, I'm not sure. A different thing I've tried is for Chinese is adding words to my deck that I am coming across myself. So instead of starting from a pre-made deck, I literally only add words that are mine, the ones that I find myself in the wild. For example, I mean, I can probably share it in Anki's some future video, but um, and it also helps that I use sentence flashcards, which means that I can just get words from the context I got them in originally. Although the issue there is that the surrounding words can be words I don't understand, so that can be problematic. But like, which is like, yeah, like that's a problem I've had in Chinese a bit. Um, I mean, I haven't studied my Chinese cards in a while, so my memory is really pretty bad. But you know what? Let me do an example right now with my phone. I did the same thing for Japanese, by the way, but because my Japanese level is already higher than my Chinese, it's not really comparable. Yeah, so this one says that. Oh, I've got the sentence there in Chinese. That's it. 吃something 很国很好吃。So like something is tasty. I think it's hot pot because I recognize this character that you can kind of see. Yeah, 火锅, which is hot pot. 火锅. The hot pot at this place is delicious, but like I didn't know what the first thing was. 日家. So 日 is like this. Ja is place apparently. So like if I don't know that, it's a bit harder. But I can still like just use it for like context. Like okay, this like is something hot pot, like something hot, something is tasty, probably hot pot. 火锅. So like that's okay, but I've stopped doing my flashcards in Chinese as well because there are some things that were just really difficult. And maybe it's because I need to be again like I need to be actively consuming content in that language while I learn it, or else it becomes a game of just doing the flashcards without the actual like reaping the benefits of them. So it becomes harder. Like for Japanese, because I actually see Japanese fairly frequently, my mining is a bit better. Like I mean, I have 49 Chinese flashcards. You can't see that. But for Japanese, I only have 10 right now because I did it recently. And it helps out. I also know more of the words. Shigoto beya kara kake. Thing is, okay, I couldn't hear that. I think it's kake naosu yo. So that's the thing. The highlighted verb is kake naosu, and shigoto beya means workroom, and I know that this is like return a call. Yeah, kake naosu, to call again. When have I used that? I don't know, but like just because I see Japanese enough in the wild, it's like enough that I can still like my brain still has the motivation to learn this. And you know, to be fair, if you stop seeing things just like naturally, like they're too obscure to like see, like you don't have to memorize it either. Like I see English words like surely at least like once a week that I've never seen before, and I only learn it naturally. Like I don't make flashcards for English words. I just learn them if I see them frequently enough. And at some point, that would happen to me for Japanese, right? Mukou ni yama ga miemasu. Mukou ni yama ga miemasu. Yama is mountain. Miemasu is like to look or to see. So mukou ni must be, I think it's either other side or far off. I think in this case it's just far off. Like look at the mountains in the distance. Mountains can be seen. Miemasu. So that's the verb form. Mukou, far off in the distance, and that's my card. You can kind of see the layout there. But like this one, I added, I think, because I wanted to say like when I was in Japan, we saw a lot of mountains in the distance, and I wanted to be able to say, oh cool, there are mountains in the distance, right? So then I could say, mukou ni yama ga miemasu. You know, sugoi, sugoi. You know, like that's useful. Like I'm happy to learn that because it's useful. And and as long as I remember it's useful, then I will keep on doing it. But if I feel it isn't useful, then I'm just not going to learn it. So that's really important. And I really want to get back on the Anki grind. I really do. I really do. For Spanish, que Dios te escuche. I got a lot of words from Spanish, a lot of phrases from chatting in the Spanish Discord server. Like this one, que Dios te escuche. I think it means. It says like may God hear you, which I think is just basically means I hope so. Yeah, like it's a phrase. May the gods hear you. You know, Dios te escuche. So that I got from the Discord server. Pero su arma cuerpo a cuerpo empuña una katana. This is. I mean, I. This is from like Samurai vs Zombies Defense, where the main character has a weapon, a katana as a weapon. I don't know when I said this, but I guess that's just the context I wanted to put arma in. So arma is weapon, right? Arma. Desde que rompió con su pareja, so after breaking up or since breaking up with their wife, se le ha ido la chapa, oh my God, I can't speak. Se le ha ido la chapa completamente. I don't know what that means. Lose one's mind, right? Which is a particularly from Spain, and it's so irse la chapa is a idiom, an idiomatic expression, and again I got that from the Discord server. So that's definitely the best way. Whereas with Chinese, not so much. Or for French, even, I have a whopping 2 flashcards for French, and I think they both come from me trying to read The Few Little Pigs. Il était une fois un maman cochon. Right? So, il était une fois. Il était une fois un maman cochon. Il était une fois un maman cochon. I know that un maman cochon is a mother pig. but that il était une fois is once upon a time because I read it in the book, and because I read it in the book, I'm not like just getting like these random common French words. No, like I'm getting it specifically for something that I was reading, and now I can remember that. Il était une fois. Boom. J'aime ma maman. J'aime ma maman. J'aime ma maman. I love my mother. Again, mother pig. So that's where I got that from. Maman. And because of that, I feel it's fun to do that. With Chinese, it's still fun because I get a lot of them from my context. But there's some words I should probably just drop, to be honest, or like at least suspend until later. So those are some ideas. But like whatever the case, it's pointless to do French, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese if I'm not also actively consuming media in that language. Anyway, let's finish this video.
Most commonly used words in a language. For Swedish, I also found a cool Kindle book. Ollie Richard's short stories in Swedish was really useful because
Short stories are pretty good, yeah.
the language is a lot simpler, and then it also has some summary questions at the end to help test your learning.
I mean, the issue is they can be so simple that they're uninteresting. Like I chose the Three Little Pigs for French just because I like the Three Little Pigs, and I thought like "un maman cochon" just sounded cool. Like that was literally my motivation for it. Which is if it motivates you, do it. Um, but like I could imagine doing like the same for Spanish or like Japanese. Like it'd be a bit boring. For Spanish, for a while, I just used my Quora digest that went to my email for some reason, and that had Spanish as well for some reason. So I just read that for Spanish stuff, and it's good because I could learn some Spanish stuff. In fact, I think I have stuff from Quora here, which I got from yeah, for Spanish, which I got from Quora, like I don't know, stuff on like Nazi Germany for some reason. Like that's one thing, or like programming stuff as well comes up, which is good because then that terminology, right? That vocabulary is specific to my interests, programming.
Of course, I highlighted some things that I didn't know from this book using Readwise Reader, and from there brought in those highlights into Obsidian. I
I don't
also
have a
started to think
Kindle.
about how I can learn Swedish just by doodling. These are, I guess, my visual doodles or visual notes from a visual note-taking course called Pencil Pirates. And we were talking about the visual alphabet and drawing shapes, not art. But then I also looked up what that means in Swedish. So that's Rita former inte konst, I think. Person som springer means a person who's running. Just a little bit of fun to spice things up. I used
Yeah, I did this too. Really, just like randomly translating things. If it's fun, do it. Right?
to use Anki for flashcards,
Used
but
to.
that doesn't really integrate too well with Obsidian. I've tried
Ooh, I was saying in a previous video, I want to figure out how to sync, not sync, but like have a tool that turns Obsidian notes into flashcards. That'd be really useful. That would be really useful, but I cannot figure out how yet. I haven't tried to figure out how. I mean, will I though? I don't know. Maybe.
those plugins, but I found it a little too convoluted, and I'm really perfectly happy to switch to Obsidian since
Yeah, I wish Anki was just a bit better in that regard.
Anki's interface is just not a great experience.
It's
Once you
not.
install that app, you can go into the spaced repetition plugin settings here and
Interesting.
set tags. Here are some that I've selected for different languages. So I haven't switched all of them in here yet, but I have started to migrate some of my Anki flashcards over, including the ones for Swedish. So I first set these tags here, and then in these settings here, I looked at the separator for inline flashcards and inline reverse flashcards. So the difference is that the inline flashcards only go one way. So if you use the separator, then you might only be shown the Swedish version and you have to supply the English version. But I actually wanted it both ways. So most of the time, I do this inline reverse flashcards, which means that every pair that you have is going to be shown twice, once in Swedish and once in English. And that
Some
by
examples.
processing my notes for that meeting, I just put it in this format. And then I tag it with Swedish or whatever language it is. After that, I then do Command P and type flashcards. You'll see that I already set a shortcut for it. Then I can click on it, and then I'm shown different decks. Each of them corresponds to one of those tags that I showed earlier in the space
Very
repetition
Anki
plugin
like.
settings. And I'm still in the process of moving things over. I started to put these in another vault, and I'm moving them into this vault. But let's check out the Swedish one. So first, it shows how many notes there are for me to review. I don't finish these every day. I mean, 825 notes a day is a lot. But there's also a link to where this word is, and this was useful because I found a lot of things where I was trying to type them in the middle of the call, and I might not have typed it out correctly. So this is good for if I want to edit something. Then I could click or just hit enter for show answer, and then I would say whether that was hard, good, or
Yeah. I'd rather just export to Anki, if possible, because I don't want to rely too much on Obsidian itself to be more than just to be anything more than a note-taking tool. So we'll see. We'll see if I can figure something out. I'd like to, because it's a lot easier to put stuff into Obsidian than to put them into Anki. Because for Anki, like if I want to add flashcards spontaneously and to open the app, wait for it to load, it takes a while for some reason because like all these extensions and it uses Python for some reason and like it's kind of laggy as well and like glitchy sometimes with the UI and have to like add the card, but like the workflow isn't always that great because like sometimes it just opens a random deck instead of the deck you wanted to open by default. Um, yeah, it can be a pain. Whereas Obsidian, you just enter the information, and then later, if you want to, press a button, open an app, whatever, a tool that will just convert into Anki notes that you can import. That'd be great. So I do want to figure out how I can do that.
easy. And in these buttons, you see that this one, if I had said that this was hard, then it would show it again to me in 14 days. If I said that this was easy, it'll still show it again in 4.4 months. This is spaced repetition. In a nutshell, it is the idea that repetition is
I
good
know.
and I don't really ever need to learn how to write them. But if I'm taking notes from my lessons and putting them in Obsidian, then it is kind of helpful to have some sort of spell check to know that I'm learning the right thing. And for that, I use the plugin Language Tool Integration. Apparently, Language Tool is a separate service entirely, and you can pay for it. It has a premium version. I'm not really sure what it's for because I haven't paid for it, and I'm just on the free version, and it works out really well. So if we go into options here, you'll see that if you do pay for the premium version, you can put your API username and key here. But other than that, all you have to do is check this auto check text. And if you're only learning one language, then it might be helpful to select that. But in my case, since I'm learning and typing in a few languages, I just leave it on auto detect. It can be useful when I'm typing something because it underlines this in red. This is in Spanish, for example. And when I click on it, it says error de ortografía. It's kind of cool that this is also in that language. Se ha encontrado un posible error ortográfico. And it says, did you mean hacerlo or hacerlo? And then I can select that.
That'd be kind of useful, actually. For some reason, my Obsidian spell check is cooked. Like for English, even it's just really bad. Um, this would be useful.
And you can add things to your personal language too. The problem is with this is I haven't found that it works for all languages equally well. So in Spanish, as you can see, which is a more popular language, it works pretty well. But in Swedish, it can be a little bit hit or miss. I've found sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
It also underlines all the English words as incorrect.
It gets confused, I
It's really
think, with
annoying.
similar languages. Like in this case, it understands the Swedish fine, apparently, but not the English because it's still thinking that this is Swedish. So it's a little confusing sometimes, but it still can be quite useful. And it's something that just happens within Obsidian while you're typing. Another thing that I like to do to practice my language is by adding it into my daily template. This is my daily note template, and here in log, sometimes I like to put in what I'm doing in Swedish. I didn't really do that too much with Swedish for one values, and I've been
Writing a diary in a different language is interesting.
tracking two languages that I've been focusing on, Swedish and Portuguese. On any given day, I would switch this to one if I have done something in Portuguese or in Swedish. I'm still testing Obsidian Tracker. I do intend to release a video just on that, but here's a sneak peek. Det är inte bra för mig.
Nej, det är stressigt.
Ja, stressigt.
Ja.
Och jag tycker om det jag är inte produktiv. Most of us have a tendency to make language learning even more difficult than it already is.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah. I don't know what my takeaway from that video really was, but that I definitely got some thoughts going in my mind. Yeah. So I have ideas. I want to get back on the language grind, but I also have other stuff I'm doing right now. Unfortunately, like I need to look for a job, apply for an internship, got my uni exams coming up. I'm actually I'm a programmer, so I gotta like spend hours programming stuff, which is in of itself a form of language learning. So it's not easy. It's not easy. But if I can just like what can I do right now? Hmm. Like I my goal is to like for Japanese, I would love to be able to just be able to watch JoJo in Japanese, right? But that doesn't mean I want to watch anime all the time to build up to that stage. I don't want to do that because I don't have the time to just watch anime in Japanese. Like watching anime is like. By the way, I don't usually watch anime. Like it's not something I just do frequently. I do it specifically for JoJo because it's a show that I've like a lot. The last anime I watched before Steel Ball Run was Stone Ocean. Like I literally did not watch any other anime in between. Um, yeah, and like if I'm watching anime with friends, they don't watch it. Sorry, they don't speak Japanese either. So I would have to watch it with English subtitles anyway. So like I can't do that with them. Like I can't really have that motivation paired. And again, like I don't want to watch anime anyway, or like really anything. I kind of just want to do stuff like programming and whatnot. So it's hard to get that exposure unless I'm literally being forced to do it for some reason. So yeah, I don't really know what I can do. I mean, I know what like there are many things I can do, but like I don't know what I will do. And like even for books, like I got this book not just because of the Bango cover art, but because I can learn a bit about history. You know, I can learn a bit about Napoleon in Japanese. Whoa! In a format that's intended for younger audiences, so it might be more accessible too. Like that's like this is a book I want to read, but like to read it, I need to be in a position where I'm A, not busy, and B, in a like for example, I might go to bed reading a book like Clean Code, a handbook of agile software craftsmanship, right? In bed. But like when I'm in bed, I'm not really note taking or anything. I'm just reading because at that point I'm just doing it to like go to sleep. But like so like I'm not gonna pull out this book before bed to go to sleep. Like to read this would be like studying because like I need to have a dictionary to be able to check what the words mean, and I need to be able to understand what's actually going on. You know, like even for Spanish, like I can't just lie in bed and just like magically read the Spanish. Like I'm gonna immediately like reading like Steel Ball Run. Like I'm gonna immediately come across like this really niche vocabulary that I just don't understand. Like punishment, I think is I can't even remember what punishment is in Spanish, but that's one example. Or like horse. I mean, yeah, caballo, but like it's not something that I can just do willy nilly for fun. Like it would be studying, and studying takes time, it takes effort, and I am already doing so much that it's hard to find the time to do such things. So eventually, eventually. Not to mention, summer is coming up, so maybe over the summer I'll have more time. I mean, I don't want to get a job, but yeah, I'll find a way to do stuff. But anyway, I'd like to make another video at some point where I really focus on language learning stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. For now, that's about it. See you.